Oh, I'm still alive. Hey, here's the question, and I ask this question all the time. It's core. Would you rather be rich or just not poor? Think about these. Would you rather be rich or just not poor? Would you rather be brilliant or just not dumb? All right? Would you rather be healthy or just not sick? How many people even recognize that there's a difference between those? Would you rather be well or just not ill? There's a difference. There's a spectrum, right? It's not health here and then healthy, 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 and all of a sudden disease. There's a process, whether it's physiological disease in the physical body manifesting, or whether it's mental illness. We know things like stress cause the deterioration of the body. When that goes on and on and on, and eventually the body can't express health or life, sure, we can measure all the changes of it, and they might show up as anxiety or depression or schizophrenia or whatever the label is. And again, am I saying don't label it and attempt to treat it? No, I'm not even saying that. But what I'm saying is let's recognize what it is. It's a state of less than 100% health that we're all designed for. We already admitted it. When you look at your children, you don't wonder what disease they're going to grow into, as if they're designed to get sick. The default state for your body is health. How many people here smoked, you might not want to admit it, smoked or smoke, and then stopped smoking? See, everybody wants to admit that one. That's good. You should be proud. How long do you think it took before your body began to regenerate lung tissue? How long after you had that last puff? How long?
2 years.
The beginning stages of that regeneration happened in a millisecond.
Oh.
The second you remove the toxin, your body was able to begin regeneration. What that tells us is that the drive for our bodies is towards health. That means all you have to do is just get out of the way. Just don't do things that move you away from health. The fact is, the way we live our life, it's amazing that we even make it to 70 and 80 years old. It's a testament to how exceptional the body is, to how amazing the design is. So we understand there's a spectrum. And as we move along this spectrum, if we define our terms, we said health is the full expression of life. It's the function of all the cells in our body the way they're designed to be, from the body to the brain, and the way those cells manifest function. And we can detail that, and we can look at that, and we can measure that. And that is the role of physiologists and biologists. But what we also recognize is that moving away from that state leads us to a state of malfunction, right? You don't go from full potential and health to a pathology in a day. That takes time. Whether it's a physiological pathology, a brain pathology, it doesn't happen in an instant. It's a process. We live our life like it's an event. Right? We're all of a sudden found out we were just stricken with cancer. So you're going to tell me that you just got cancer? That the last 20 years of your life had nothing to do with it? Am I saying don't receive medical care? Absolutely not. Am I saying there's not a time and a place? Absolutely not. But how many people would agree that the best time to take care of yourself would have been 20 years earlier? When's the first time, if you have children, you're going to brush their teeth? As soon as they have teeth, right? There's no specific date. Well, the 3-month mark, 6-month mark, as soon as they have teeth. Why wait until pathology begins to develop? So we understand this process of health and life, and it's only one thing, almost one thing, we'll leave room for a few variations, that move us away from this to disease, to symptoms. Now, important note of this slide, the final stage of malfunction is symptoms, not the first stage. right? By the time somebody is symptomatic, by the time they're expressing a symptom, they've had a change going on in their body for a long, long time. Pathologists who study disease, they actually say that this process, symptoms are somewhere between 3/4 of the way down to 5/6 of the way down this process. In many cases, is it true that symptoms are the thing that happens right before somebody even dies, right? What's the most common symptom of heart disease? A heart attack. Do you think that process happened overnight? Or did that take years and decades to develop? So the paradigm shift is simply this slide, understanding that your design is health, mental and physical, that as you lose those, you move that way towards symptoms and disease. Now, a nice word that I like for malfunction is dis-ease, because it really gives a nice feeling of what I mean by malfunction. Lack of ease. The body's designed for ease, to be in a state of function and health. And when you lose that, it's in a state of dis-ease. Now, you may have no pathology at this point, nothing that your medical provider can measure. And how many people have been told that nothing's wrong with them? Well, nothing's wrong with you. Why? Because we can't see it on an X-ray, an MRI, a blood test, a CT scan. Right? So nothing's wrong with me. I need to wait until I'm sick, have a pathology, before you can actually intervene. In this state, this is where most of us live. Anxiety, stress, I don't feel well, I have allergies, I'm not getting good sleep, my mobility sucks, I'm tired. Right? No matter what age you are, we see people across the spectrum all living in this range. Only a handful of people are actually diagnosed with a pathology compared to the whole population. You're either moving in one direction or the other. You realize that you're either growing or dying, right? That there is no in between. There is no neutral, right? So when people say, I'm going to start exercise next week, I'm going to eat better next week, or on Monday, my favorite is Monday. How many diets have started on Mondays? What's that? A lot. Yeah, too many of them. So we have to recognize something very simple, a simple principle, a gem, if you will, is that your choices matter. I'm going to tell you a story in a little bit about someone who really got the principle that his choices mattered. So your choice to be here tonight matters. Your choice to exercise tomorrow matters. Your choice to eat certain foods matters. Now, it might be minuscule, right? It might be small, but it's the accumulation of those things over time that is your life. It's not an event, it's a process. And as soon as you start to realize that, you start to take it upon yourself to say, I need to make a shift. I need to make a change. And I'm going to keep coming back to this idea that that shift affects both our physical well-being, but also our mental well-being. They're not separate. Right? When they invited me to come speak tonight, and we talked about the topics and mental well-being and mental illness, absolutely, everything I'm saying has to do with that. But you cannot separate your physical well-being and your mental state. Right? A lot of people will say things like, I'll be happy when I'm healthy. And then the other half says, I'll be healthy when I'm happy. And I say, you'll never be fully both if you're neither. Are you growing or dying? That's the question. Right? Are you growing or dying? If you're a plant, and you really just are a plant, physiologically, are you growing or dying? Now, at the end of the day, you're probably doing a bit of both. But what are you doing more of? I like to talk about health in terms of a bank account. It's a great way to think about it, a great analogy. So if you put a lot of deposits into your bank account, you build up a huge balance, you can take some withdrawals. I'm not talking about a lifestyle that is one of deprivation, right? That you can only have chocolate on Christmas Eve or something like that. I'm talking about an incredible life that moves you towards this extraordinary design that we have. So it's a bank account. But the problem is if you make a lot of withdrawals from your bank account and no deposits, you're going to be in serious, serious trouble. So the question is this, and it brings us to one of the main topics tonight, is what moves us towards or away? And it really comes down to a simple concept that we've all heard the word, stress. How many people here have stress? All right, well, you're in the right room then. We got a perfect conversation for tonight. Now, stress is one of those catchphrases, the catch-all. People say, well, I'm stressed, I have stress, this is stressful. Stress by nature is neither good or bad, right? It just is. It's how your body adapts and handles stress that determines whether you're going to move towards health or away from health. So that brings into a whole new world for people, because what it says is that you are responsible, right? Able to respond. You are responsible for how your body responds to a large degree. So if we adapt to stress and our body integrates it and it turns into a positive change, it's called eustress. And some people here who are practitioners or therapists may have heard the term eustress. If your body doesn't handle it well, doesn't adapt to it, it creates damage long term, it's called distress. Regardless, you're either going to be pushed in one direction or the other. But what is the core or the central piece to which way you're going to go? This is key. This will tell me if anybody was listening, if everybody's just shaking their head. Is it the stress or is it you? It's you. It's your body's ability to adapt to that stress. That means you're responsible to make your body a vehicle to live in a stressful world. One of the analogies I give people in my office is, if we can help you get healthier, meaning function better, it's like taking your body, instead of making it a Pentium 2 computer and trying to run programs on it, we're upgrading you to a Pentium 4. You run all the same programs, but now you just notice everything runs faster, it's easier, you don't get the dreaded blue screen. Now, as a side note, everybody should use a Mac, and that doesn't happen. I spent all weekend focusing on designing an amazing presentation, but instead, I had to shift my focus to 8 hours on a PC because that's all our office uses. Not good. A PC is moving this way. All right, Macs are moving this way. So, we talked about stress, and it's important to recognize that stress has a global effect on the body. And this is really how it ties in. People say, well, how can stress affect things like our psychological state? Or how can this elusive thing called stress affect my sleep patterns? How can it affect my digestive system? Stress affects us in a very global, non-specific way. You might have heard of Hans Selye, a Canadian, who developed the concept of stress. And what he talked about was, your body doesn't know the difference between a toxic thought, toxic movement, toxic food. They're all just stressful. They don't match up with what the design is. Your body doesn't really know what to do and how to deal. And so they all register to your brain as stress. That turns on the adrenal glands, pumps out adrenaline, your heart rate goes up. All that's by design. You realize if you were being chased by a leopard, you want increased heart rate, right? You want changes at the pupils, you want blood shunting away from your organs, you want all those things to happen. They're designed that way. But the problem is this, we're the only mammals that create our own lifestyle. Right? We don't live in a way that matches with what our body's designed for. I mean, let's be honest, we're sitting in chairs. Right? Has anybody ever seen the dog, and somebody has one probably, but sit in a chair like this? Right? He has a dog that sits in a chair like this. The point is, we do this from the time we're 4 years old all the way through our life. One of the concepts and points that I use a lot in my seminars is that sitting is the new smoking. Think about that. 50 years ago, we didn't know just how bad smoking was for us. I mean, it shouldn't have been rocket science that if you light up tobacco and inhale the smoke that it wasn't good for you. Somehow we needed a study to prove that. Sitting is the new smoking. People who sit more than 6 hours a day have shorter lifespans. Our body is affected globally by stress. Right? When you sit, you ever notice how when you sit you get tired? It doesn't matter how much energy you have. You're like, oh, I slept 12 hours last night. Why am I so tired? It's because when you sit, you affect the body's neurology. You affect the brain and nervous system. The stress response starts in your body automatically. At the same time, you ever notice when you go exercise, you just gave up energy, but you actually feel more awake and alive? How can that be? I used up energy and now I have more energy. It's because of the way the nervous system is affected and the brain is affected.